Okay, we are going to do some practicing with one-step equations. I'm going to focus on the fact that we are only doing one step at this point so that we can understand the next step, which will be adding a second step. So our goal is to isolate our variable, which in this case is the x. So that means we're moving everything that's with the x to the other side using inverse or opposite operations. So the opposite of plus 6 is minus 6, and what I do to one side, I do to the other. Therefore, 6 minus 6 is 0. They are eliminated. You're left with x on this side and 12 on the other. That is how you do one-step equations. Make sure that you have written all the steps. I understand that some of you can do it in your head, but the practice is necessary to do it the right way so that it makes sense when we start adding the steps. This one has it written a little differently. So I'm going to make sure that I know that I'm isolating my x. In this case, it's a positive x because it has the plus in front of it, and I need to move the 5. Might be a little tricky, but if we remember this is a positive 5, and we're doing the opposite, which is the inverse, in order to get it to the other side. I don't know why I wrote a 6. So subtracting 5 from both sides, you're left with 5 minus 5 eliminates, you're left with x equals 14. Making sure that we remember we're only doing one step. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. Let's skip. Let's go find one that is multiplication. So we're flipping to the other side. Okay, so in this case, the two numbers or two terms are close together. So that, well, it's not two terms. So there's a little imaginary times in there, which means the operation being done is multiplication. So we're going to do our one step, which is the opposite of multiplication. So I divide both sides by 3, remembering that what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, which is no longer needed. So we just bring down the x, the one x that we have left, and our answer is 2. We're going to go ahead and go over to number 2, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure that we are using our one step, and in this case, since it's multiplication, we're going to divide by 6, both sides. 6 divided by 6 eliminates and makes 1, so we have 1x, which equals 4. Let's see, what other problems should we do? Okay, let's look at this one right here. So this is half of x equals 1. So we're going to divide both sides by 0.5. If you have a calculator, that's great. If you don't have a calculator, it's a little awkward. So 5 divided by 5, or 0.5 divided by 0.5 is 1. X divided by 1/2 is going to be interesting. So that means we would write it like this. Go off to the side and write this if you're not having a calculator. But remember, we are not going to multiply by or divide by a decimal. So if I move that one over 1, I move that one over 1, and then you're left with 5 or 10 divided by 5, which is 2. So our answer to this one is 2. Let's look, make sure that they're not doing anything we don't expect. I know there's another one down there at number 8, but most of my students end up using calculators, so that is okay. This line right here means divide. So this is technically x divided by 4. The opposite of division is multiplication, so we're going to times 4, which makes both of those things go away. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. You're left with x equals 12. Now, my expectation is for you all to do the rest of them. Then most likely you can come to the back of the room and check your answers before turning it in. If you finish it during class, then you have no homework. If you don't finish it during class, it will be homework.